Welcome to another adventure of the Halftone Effect.
Save us!
Oh no!
Hey everyone, we're back. It's the Halftone Effect. In case you forgot who I am, I'm Kieran Jack. We're here tonight with Camillo Di... Oh, see, I told you I'd fuck it up straight away.
Camillo Di Petrantonio.
But yeah, we're back. It's great to have Cam on. We've been busy with conventions in 2019 and, well, one or two in 2020. Certain circumstances have changed that. So we're all stuck inside, but that's not a bad thing. We've been able to all work together and we've just started doing Twitch streams, haven't we? And it's been fun. And this weekend we're supposed to be at a free comic book day at D's Comics, weren't we, Cam?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I wasn't meant to be there. You were meant to be there.
I'm pretty sure. Were you meant to be there?
Yeah, I didn't think I was meant to be there.
I think maybe I'll let the cat out of the bag. I think Brendan was going to ask you.
Oh, okay. I would have thought.
Yeah, I think that was in early days. He was organising it. That's fine. That's minor details.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool to have you on the show finally. We've been talking about getting on for a while. We go to conventions and always talk about getting you on the show, and it's really cool to have you on tonight to talk about your history in comics. You're on fire at the moment, man. You've been consistently pushing out work left, right, and centre. Your recent experience at Supernova in Gold Coast as a superstar, which is awesome. It's always great to see friends hit those kind of strides. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool to have you on the show, man. Thanks for coming on. But we'll dive into it. Like, for you, you've been working how long now in the comic book industry?
I started drawing seriously about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Starting to pursue it. And then, when was it? Like, I got published for the first time, I think it was 3 years ago on the Killaroo book.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just every year I'm trying to kick more goals, man. And when I was last year, I got Liverpool, so that was pretty good.
And absolutely, like, I think that, like, the likes of Killaroo, like, I've had Darren on the show before, and he speaks very highly of your work and the input that you brought to Killaroo. That's his baby. And it shows because the leaps to bounds that you've gone to in those 3 years. I mean, you've done a cover for a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic. Like, how freaking cool is that?
Man, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and you're sitting next to Eastman, weren't you?
I think I was 3 or 4 tables away from him.
Okay, yeah. That's still cool, man. And that guy's just a genuine soul. Like, he's just happy to meet everyone. Loves talking to people. I mean, I was fortunate enough to meet him at Supernova in Melbourne, and I handed him some of my shitty comics, and he was rapt to get them. He was honoured, and I had to sign them for him. He wanted them signed, and I think that was really cool too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, he's been doing it for so long, but it's still got that really welcoming, warming attitude to the fan base and the people that grew up around those characters.
Yeah.
And we all know the story behind it, and I think that you've had that opportunity, and it's huge, man. How was that experience? How'd you first get onto that?
Man, I just asked him. I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I've done the Phantom, and then Killaroo, and Killaroo, like, Darren's consistently a guest there, and then the Phantom always has a big turnout at the Supernova Sydney. And I'm like, now I've got Ninja Turtles. I'm like, screw it, you know what? I'm just going to ask them. If I get it, I get it. And if I don't, I don't. And I just emailed the boss of Supernova directly, which apparently no one ever does. And I just asked him to be a guest. And he's like, yeah, all right, cool. And he put me in contact with one of the organisers. And that was it.
Wow.
So, it's like, if you don't ask, you don't get it, So
that's exactly right. And I think that's
what they said to me. So
yeah, it's perfect, man. You reached out to them and they gave you that opportunity, and it was a very well received comic. Because how many different variant covers were there for that one?
There was a lot, man. I'm not sure, but I think there could have been 100. issue 100 might have had 100 there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yours was the D's Comics exclusive,
That's right, yeah.
which I got. And it's a glorious cover, man. You knocked it out of the park. And you've got Jenica on there now, who's the new Turtle.
Yeah.
That's a monumental event.
Yeah, it is.
It's not the first time I've had a female Turtle, but at the same time, it's the first time that a female Turtle has been in the comic book.
No, it's not, man.
Isn't it? So
In the Archie books back in the day, April became a Turtle for a few issues, I think.
that's right.
Yeah, but like I know what you mean. It is like she's the first official one. Like April was just a gag thing, She went back to her humour at the end of the issue, but it's pretty. There was something I haven't even read the issue, but apparently something happens, and apparently it's a key issue for some reason.
That's right. I remember it happening. I remember being talked about, but for the life of me, I'd just forgotten about that. That's insane. But I mean, still, not taking away from your work either to be able to do that. That's pretty cool. Tell me about the process in doing that. So they obviously offered you the cover.
It didn't work like that, man. This like what happened was I had done some Ninja Turtle art just for the sake of it for my Instagram, and it got picked up by Nickelodeon.
Yep.
And they asked me to use the art. They're going to use it on some TV show stage. I didn't ask them. I just signed the papers and but they didn't pay me for it. And I asked for money, and they don't usually pay for this sort of stuff. Like, it's fan art. And I'm like, well, you got to give me something. I'm like, can you give me like a list of editors I can send my portfolio to at least?
Yep.
And they said yes, but then they just duck and dodged me for months, man. And so when issue 100 was coming out, and I saw there was so many variants, I hit them up and I'm like, can I have a variant? And they said, you know what? They go, if you find a retailer, your art's already been used for shit. So if you find a retailer, we'll waive all the approval fees and all that sort of stuff. Because the way it works is the retailer has to order a minimum number of comics to be able to be entitled to a variant.
Right, okay.
So these had to order 500 copies, and then they get a variant. And then it would have been another fee on top, which would have been all the approval fees for my artwork and stuff like that. I didn't have to do any of that. I just drew. They didn't look. They didn't check my art. Nothing. They just took it, and that was it.
Wow.
That was the thank you they gave me for letting them use my art for their Nickelodeon, whatever it was. So that's how it came about.
That's pretty incredible, because that sounds like it's a lengthy process in itself to do that.
I was only given, I think it was like 2 weeks to finish that cover, because when I realised I could do it, it was already really late. It was close to the deadline.
Yeah.
So I pumped that cover out really, really quick, man.
Yeah, I remember you doing it too, and just the progression shots of your Instagram and your story, it kept going and going quicker and quicker. And I was like, wow, like the time frame on that must be huge to just smash that out and get it to them as quickly as possible.
Yeah, well, I had to make sure I had time for the colorist to color it as well. So I didn't want to. I actually had 2 colorists doing it.
Who was the colorist on that?
His name was Leonardo Pacharotti. He's a Spanish dude, and he was my. Sounds dirty, but he was my original choice.
Okay.
Who knows how many inboxes this guy gets, right? So I inboxed him, and he never replied. So I had to get someone else. And I knew another colorist that had worked on the X-Men and stuff years ago. His name's Mason.
Wow.
Something Mason. Anyway, so that guy's usually quick with replying and stuff. So I paid him and got him to do it. But then Leonardo got back to me like 3 days before the deadline. If you can do it, I didn't want to say no to this guy, because he's already worked on a lot of Ninja Turtle stuff, and he's a pretty big name. So I'm like, if you can finish it in time, I'll do it. And then I had to choose between the 2 colored versions, man. And it was hard to say no to the other dude that already done it for me.
Yeah, and that's hectic in itself to try and put that pressure on another artist to get it out.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure I get it out on time, man. Like, I had to reach that deadline. Even though the editors said to us, listen, we'll give you a bit of leeway if you want, because it's getting late. But I really wanted to get in early, because I know editors like work on time. So I want to look good to them. And apparently I was one of the first ones in.
Shit,
I was one
man.
of the first ones done, so.
That's a positive, man.
Yeah.
They see that there's future potential there for you. That's pretty exciting. And I mean, like, you and Jamie Johnson were another one who had his variant cover done for Fats Comics. So 2 Australian artists that were featured in the 100th issue variant covers, which is huge.
Yeah.
So that's really cool, man. And I mean, to have that in your portfolio, saying you got to do a Ninja Turtles, let alone issue 100.
That's awesome.
It's insane.
It's even better that it's sold out. I feel so happy that we sold out all the copies. I think I've got like 40 copies left, and that's just for me. I'm not going to sell them.
Oh, see, wow.
Yeah.
So Brendan sold all the copies that he's got.
Yep. He pretty much sold out on the day that we released it.
Yeah.
He was pretty much done. And I was worried about that because, you know, it's a pretty big financial investment for a store to make, you know?
Yeah.
But he made his money back, man, so.
Especially on variants. I mean, the way things are at the moment, you know, the discussion with Diamond at the moment is that, you know, the amount of variants going out into the world, is it too many?
I think it is, man.
I'm notorious for it. I'll buy a variant if it's by an artist that I know and I appreciate that style. And I'm doing it myself now with my own comics. I get the artists that come on board for mine. I get the variant covers done because people do love variant covers. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's hard to say when and where, but even still, to sell 500 of that's huge. So. Nah, kudos to you, man. That's a great achievement.
Thanks,
so early on in your career as well. You're obviously still working. We never stop learning. And obviously over the last couple of months, talking to you and watching your stuff progress and the little short comic one shot that you recently did.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty groundbreaking. Do you want to talk about that? Because I think that's pretty important. It's one of your first.
I did a little 5-page story about the COVID situation overseas in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of family there.
Yep.
Okay, they're all healthy and stuff, and luckily the area of Italy where they're living is pretty safe. It's further down south, and it seems like it hasn't really affected the south as much.
Okay.
But yeah, I wanted to do something, you know. I've been working on sequentials for ages, and I never put anything out really. I never found much of the sequentials I'm working on. And I finally got to a point where I'm pretty confident that it's going to look okay, you know. So I'm going to do a little 5-page story. And I wrote it myself. I lettered it myself. I done colours myself. I'll tell you what, man. At the end of it, I freaking respect people who make their own comics so much because it's so much work, man. 5 pages. It's only 5 pages, and it killed me. To get every single part of it, colours, letters, story, all of it. Man, it's a pain. You know, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and I remember talking to you about it when you showed me you showed me it, and you remember saying that it's a big partake, but at the same time, it's the love of it too, that we do it. I think is more so. It's the passion of doing it. If you don't have that passion, then it would be a slug. And I personally, towards a 24-page comic, I'm at my wit's end by it. Because, you know, staring at those small panels and staring them especially on a tablet or, on a big, 11 by 17 inch page, it can become, I guess, intimidating. Because you look at that and you're like, oh, I can do better, or I've got to put more detail into it, and you can spend too much time on one panel.
That's right. It starts off as it's so fun. I started it off and I'm drawing the pages and I'm pumping out a page a day. I'm like, this is easy. I can do this all day. You know, this is 5 days I'll be finished. And then I got to scan them, and then I'm doing the flat colors, and then I'm coloring it. By the end of it, I've looked at the same pages 20 times each. It's all the fun gets drained out of it, and it's just a labor of love, really. You know?
Yeah, it can become very much loathing. I found myself at certain stages where I kind of loathe the end process because it's so dragged out, especially when I was doing, like, to the extent of what you're saying, you know, you're penciling, inking, coloring, and lettering. So I don't color my inside pages, but I know from the fact of inking it, then going and digitally inking it, it becomes a strenuous process. And as I've continued down that road, I've kind of taken the steps of saying, okay, I'm not lettering anymore because I can't, even though my trade is a designer and that's what we do, I don't want to be exhausted by the end of it. So that process in itself is, and it doesn't matter if it's 5 pages or 24 pages, it still can be a lengthy process. I hear you 100% there on how the process takes it out of you by the end of it, especially your story, man. Like that's a deep story. Like it's a personal affliction that you're dealing with at the moment, that a lot of the world are dealing with. So I think it can be very daunting, but the end result is worth it. And that's why I reckon you should put it out into the world.
Well, when I finished it, after looking at it so much, by the time I was done, I started to doubt it. You know, I'm like, I don't know if I should put this out. I was like, things start playing on your mind. I'm like, do I look like a dickhead doing this? Am I like getting sympathy likes or something like that? You know, like all sorts of things started running through my head. I'm like, maybe I might put it out. You know,
yeah.
At the end, I decided to put it out there. Originally, I was going to actually get it printed. You know, and I'm like, I'll see, because I'm like, it's only 5 pages, but if I put both the English version and the Italian version, and maybe like I do a black and white version of it, like it's 16 pages or something, I can slang it, you know, it can be long enough to be a book, but I'm like, I don't know if I didn't have a chance for it. So, yeah, I just felt a bit, I'm like, the nature of the story, I'm like, I just want to put it out there and let people read it. I don't really want to make money on it, you know, so I didn't end up printing it. I don't think I will. So.
Yeah, I think you should. I think it's still a story that is powerful in this place and time. I think it works, and like you're saying, do the English version, the Italian version, and the black and white version. I think that's very smart. You know, rather than just being a 5-page comic and you've got to extend it out to 8 pages, you're giving people that experience of the black and white versus your colouring, and it's showing them your art style. So that's really a clever idea, man. I'd say go for it. Yeah. You don't have to do a lot, but it's still at the same time, people who follow your work might be really interested in the story you tell. And I think from the group of people we all hang around, that's very much the same thing. It was a very powerful story.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Especially in these times. So look, I'm interested to see if you do your own little comic book series now after that. See if it inspires you later on down the track.
I've got stuff I want to do. I've got plans on making my own book.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I still want to get a bit better, you know. Like, I still feel like some of the stories I have in my head, I still think my ability isn't at the level that I want it to be to tell those stories yet.
Yeah.
So I'm really just going to buckle down and like pick one of these stories that I've written and draw it and just get on with it, really.
I think someone like myself who just started it and had no idea what he was doing, just jump in and do it, man.
Well, that's why I'm looking forward to drawing the 4 pages you've given me.
Yeah.
Like I've already mapped them out and stuff, and I'm like that it really, really excites me, man. You know?
Oh. Yeah, cheers, man. Well, yeah, obviously people who are listening, Camillo is going to be doing the guest pages on In Purgatory issue 6. Sorry, I've written that many whilst being in isolation.
Yeah.
I've lost count of how many issues I've got. So yeah, that's really exciting. And you know, you came to me and asked me, and I was chuffed, you know, to have you on the team of people we've had already, and to contribute to it. And the pages that I've written for you, I thought, you know, they were kind of perfect for your art style. They'll really hit the ground running when you start illustrating. And I can't wait to see what you've done with those pages.
They're all ready to go, man. Like I've got one more thing now that I've got to finish before I really get stuck into them.
Yeah.
I've already laid out the 4 pages. I've already done all my research, man. I've looked looked up 16th century architecture, outfits and everything, man. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's mad. That's mad. I'm really excited. And like going back to the effort we put into comics, it's good to have other people on the team that can do some of the pages.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Doing 24 pages by myself was strenuous, and it's really cool to have people come on and kind of interpretate my story for a certain little story arc that goes on. The covers that people get to do, like for Brendan, when we do the variant covers for D's Comics, that's cool, and obviously you're going to do one of those as well. But to have people bring my creations to life like that, that's just a real buzz to have them on board for it. So I'm looking forward to it. And actually, this is the first we've announced that you're working on board the project. So it's fine. That's awesome, man. I'm quite happy to promote the comic on the podcast. But let's go back to you and your experience, man, because you were saying at the start, Killaroo, you've done work for them, you've done work for the Phantom, Fru.
Yeah.
So that process, do you want to give us a bit of an idea about background behind that?
Well, with Killaroo, I don't know if you remember, but Darren used to run this Oz Comics drawing challenge on Facebook.
Yep.
And when I first started, I stopped drawing for a while, man. Like when I was in high school, like I just stopped drawing. I was just little doodles here and there. And when I finished uni and I got an office job that I hated, that's when I started to decide I wanted to pursue comic art again. Mm-hmm. And those drawing challenges that Darren used to run, they got me drawing again. It was only like one drawing a week, but they really started to inspire me and get me going again. So I think it was around the time Avengers Infinity War came out.
Okay.
A memory came up on Facebook of the first drawing challenge I did, which was for the first Avengers movie. And I showed Darren, and I'm like, look, man, look how much I've improved, and it's like your drawing challenge got me going. And he's like, oh, really? He's like, well, then he asked me, like, you want to do a product for Killaroo? That's how I got the Killaroo.
Okay.
That's how that happened.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then the Phantom, I was trying to get the Phantom for a few years, man. Like, I had sent I've bumped into one of these Phantom artists, Antonio Lemos, somewhere, and I'm like to him, hey, I know you. I was at work, and I work in retail, and he was a customer, and I'm like, I know you. You did a Phantom. And we started talking, and I started showing him my work, and he's like, you should send this in. So I sent it in, but it wasn't good enough, man. Like, the Fru straight up said, like, nah, this is wrong, that is wrong, it's all wrong, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, if you make some adjustments, like, we'll talk again. So I made the adjustments and I sent them in, and I never got a reply. And 2 years went past, and in that 2 years, I started doing free comic books by the Phantom Zone in Parramatta here in Sydney, right?
Yep.
And they're closed now, but I was doing free comic book day there, and the owner of Fru, Glenn, he used to own the Phantom Zone.
Okay.
So he was there. He always comes in on free comic book day.
Mm-hmm.
So I started talking to him. I introduced myself. I'm like, I sent you some samples and stuff. And he's like, oh, well, let me see your more recent work. So I showed him, and he's like, yeah, listen. He's like, if you just fix this up, like, I'll put you on a cover or something. I'm like, all right. So I just completely redrew the image that I had originally done for him, which is like just a test image of the Phantom, just to see if I can draw the Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think it would be used. Like, I thought he'd be like, okay, that's good enough, now draw me a cover. Instead, he didn't even reply me. I was like, a few weeks after I sent it to him, people started tagging me online, and it just came up on the Fru page that he's using it for the back cover of one of their issues.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's how I got that. And, there was meant to be more Phantom work, but it hasn't come to fruition. And yeah, like I still talk to him regularly, but I don't know if I'll be getting more work from him or not.
Because you've been on the guest table for Fru, haven't you, before?
No, I haven't, man. I was the only one. I don't know why. I was the only one who had been published on them, but never got given the guest table. They sort of forgot about me.
They'll come to you, man. Like, seriously, the leaps and bounds that you've gone through in the last year is phenomenal. I mean, you're on the cover for Australia Burns, the anthology. Yeah. Like, that's huge.
Yeah, that was very big, man.
You know, everyone that participated in that was a milestone for Australian comics, especially. And I guess we haven't really talked about it since I haven't done a podcast since early last year, but the fact that we went through this traumatic experience with half the country, well,
Yeah,
you
man.
know,
It's easy to forget about it now that COVID's the main problem, but
yeah, but I mean, like we went through this massive ordeal with fires, and thanks to Tim Styles and this amazing group of people that come together and created this comic that was going to be like I think it was meant to be a 30-page comic to start off with, and it turned out to be an anthology.
yeah,
To have your work at the front of it as well, that's huge, and it's an amazing cover as well. Looking at it right now, it just stands out so vividly. Especially at the convention when the guys were at their booth and they had it set up, and you know there's your poster sitting in the background. So that's another achievement on your wayside as well. So you got to be proud of that, man.
I'm really proud, man. Especially considering the caliber of artists that were in that book. You know, the fact that Tim asked me to do the cover, like it was big honor, man.
Yeah, and that's cool. And you know, congratulations to everyone that participated in that, because like it was a daunting process to go through all that work and put it together, collaborating. It was huge, and I think we did like over 20,000, I think, something like that.
Yep.
And it went back to certain fundraising bodies that put it towards, you know, getting everyone back on their feet, getting animals back out in the nature and all that. So congratulations to everyone that partook in that. If you want to grab it, guys listening, you can find it at comic book stores around Australia. Most of the comic book stores around Australia are stocking it, and you can also find it on, I think it's a Big Cartel, Australia Burns. You'll be able to find it there. And it's Cam's awesome work on the front cover, along with a slew of Australian writers, illustrators, and artists that could partake in this series. So yeah, really, really awesome work, man.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, that's your body of work. You know, you've started off small, and it's a snowball effect, man. You just continuously kept working, and I mean, it's nothing saying that you can't push yourself out there, because obviously you went out and asked people like Phantom through, you know, you reached out to the people behind the Turtles, and talked to them about getting your work in there. So for anyone listening that thinks that, you know, that's impossible to work for another bigger name, you just got to prove you can do it, and talk, and don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask questions.
That's what I have to, and I'm always doing it. I'm always asking everyone.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I've got no shame in it. No shame at all to ask for something. You know, like before I started even like exhibiting the Artist Alley, I was going to the cons and bringing my portfolio and just asking all the guest artists like Summer River and the Adam just to whip into my work. You know. So even that is asking for something. Like asking for critique is a big deal. So the more you ask, the more you get, man.
Yeah, I think that's it's a good thing to do. I think it's constructive criticism is more so to the point. You have to be getting constructive criticism, stuff that helps you improve. Anyone that goes out there and just gets slammed for their art not being right, I don't think that's fair. I know that there is people in the industry that do that to people, and I think it's wrong. But for people to go out and ask for constructive criticism, it's quintessential in building your foundations of what you are and what you become. So, dude, to do it yourself it's a big thing. It's a big step to be able to go out and put yourself out there and say, what can I do better about my work?
Yeah, I always do. Even now, even at the Gold Coast, when I was a guest, I was sitting down with John Sommeriva. I'm like, here's my new stuff. I'm like, just tell me everything wrong. Don't tell me the good shit. Like, tell me everything that's not right. You know? And it helps, man. It helps, especially if you have someone who's not being a dickhead about where you can improve. You know? Like, and to be honest, even if they're not being a dickhead, sometimes it hurts your feelings, but like, whatever, you know, you take it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you can't wear your heart in a sleeve really for this, because you kind of have to grow, and you've got all the people who attend there, you know, worshipping your work. So that kind of is your buffer, I guess, to when you're taking information and critiquing from professionals like John or Kevin or David Yarden or whoever it may be, in the big leagues who have actually done work for the likes of Marvel and DC. But I think that's pretty important to. I mean, myself, my work is I'm always trying to improve, but I personally don't feel I want to be talking to them and asking them about, because I know that I need to improve it myself, and I will continuously do that. I'd love to know what Kevin thought of my comic books, but I guess I'll never know.
Yeah,
I was like, here's my fucked up comic book. It's about slices of bread.
I reckon, even getting feedback from your customers, like if you don't want to take your book to the other artists in the alley, you get critique. Just what your customers think is critique enough sometimes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I even get comments on Instagram or whatever, and someone talking shit, and people are like, ignore it. I don't ignore those comments. I don't take them to heart. I don't get offended. But when someone's like, I don't like how you draw Batman's nose, I thought, if I want to sell this, I've got to draw what people like. If most people don't like it, I'm going to, learn from it.
Oh, mate, I 100% agree with you there, because, in the beginning when I started doing this, my art style was very weird. It was very twisted, and people just didn't like it. Like, one of my first conventions I did, the prints I had, I didn't sell any prints because, probably my artwork was shit, but also it was very different to what people are usually seen to, and they actually can't say that's not how you draw Tasmanian Devil, or that's not how you draw Popeye.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. So, I think that's in a certain degree, social media can be a beast and an ass, but at the same time also you've got that kind of feedback that you get to help you develop and improve what you're doing, and you can still do your style, but it kind of formats into what people see as the norm.
Yeah.
I guess that's how I'd kind of put it.
And prints are a funny one, man, because prints, you don't even know. Sometimes I do a print where I'm like, this is my best ever print, and I don't show any of them. Prints are really weird, because sometimes people just want something that looks really good on their wall. And not to say that my stuff and your stuff don't look good on the wall, but sometimes, I don't know, there's a difference between someone drawing an art piece and then a poster, There's so many good posters at all these conventions that people make. Digitally enhanced photos and stuff, and they're really good posters. They look cool forever on the wall, And I don't know if I'm explaining myself right, but you know what I'm saying? Those Best Logic posters and stuff, and I always see one dude at Supernova, and he's got these, white background watercolored pieces, and they look really cool on the wall. And sometimes I look at that and I'm like, well, my stuff looks cool, but it's really not going to look as good on the wall as that would. So that's why I'm not selling it.
Yeah, and I think the market's saturated too.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's funny because I was only talking about it to the guys last night when we were doing the Twitch, and the saturation in the market. I've actually noticed a change in my sales. Excuse me. Where it shows a lot more of the comic book sales being sold rather than the prints. They haven't overtaken that as yet, but they are building up in percentage wise now. I don't know if that's due to the fact that I've got more out, or it's just the fact that the prints have become so saturated in the market, which to me is fine. If I'm selling more comics than I am prints, I'm happy with that, because that's my blood, sweat and tears that people are getting, where a print doesn't take that much. And I'm guessing for most of us, it doesn't take a whole day to do a print than it would to do 2 pages to 3 pages of a comic. Unless you're Jackson, of course, who does 8 hours or 24 hours to one print. But the detail and the stuff that he does is just bonkers. Yeah. But yeah, it's very interesting how you can put yourself out there but it can be savage in the sense of social media. And we've talked about this previously, but the social media and how the algorithms work and how your followers work, it's just, it is truly savage.
It is, man. But I reckon it's so important, man. I reckon social media is so important, especially for me and what I want to do. Like, I want to break into comics and work for a publisher. Well, I think someone having a good fan base online is so important, because these days it doesn't even matter just how good you are. It's also, if I have 10,000 followers, that's 10,000 customers.
Yeah.
So it's publicity for these companies as well. So that's why I care so much about social media. I don't care what people say. I don't get offended when someone doesn't like my stuff or whatever. But I do put a lot of effort into it, man. Like, I've studied the algorithm, and I'm trying to grow badly.
Yeah, and that's important. I can totally agree with you there, man. The importance of social media and connecting with that audience and building that audience is. It doesn't matter if it's Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or Facebook. It's important that we're there and we're interacting with them. We're keeping. It's hard because you got to keep feeding them. You just got to keep putting stuff out there, and it doesn't necessarily need to be fresh, but it just needs to be kept pushing it out to the audience.
I'm doing a post a day. I'm doing a new post every day.
Yeah.
And I look at all my analytics and stuff, and I'm averaging like 210 new followers a month right now, which is good, and but it's not even about getting 50 billion followers. It's just I want a good audience, because this shit ends up being money as well. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the 1,002 fans theory. If you have 1,000 fans who will spend $100 on your year, you're on 6 digits. Your income is 6 digits. And like, I haven't got 1,000 real fans, I've got more than 1,000 followers, but not 1,000 people spending $100 on me a year.
No. And I think that, that'd be amazing if there was 1,000 people spending $100 on you a year.
When you think about it, it's not really that, it can't be that hard. Like, the world's huge, 1,000 people, it shouldn't be that hard to find,
It shouldn't. It's just got to find 1,000 people that enjoy that style. That's where it comes down to, that are interested in that. And I think that in itself is, it's important because more so now, especially in the situation we're living in, I found that I've generated a lot of sales because of the presence that I'm pushing out on all my social media platforms and getting my work out there, even if it's my older stuff. Like, I've got comic books that I did 5 years ago that I'm trying to push the stock out so I can get rid of that stock. But I think it's just as important. And if you're not engaging with that audience and you've got a good establishment, you're losing out. And this is one of my key problems, that you've got to kind of treat this as a business. It has to be a business. If you're doing this for the love of it, that's cool. But also to pay the next table to establish this to be a job or a passion is just as important. So you've got to kind of establish that as a business, because if you're not treating it as a business, you're not going to make sales. And you're not going to reach that audience that grows your sales or grows your audience. They're all very, very important factors into being an artist these days, more so than ever was. And you can tell that from the older audience. Like, a lot of the older artists and writers, they don't exactly have a huge presence on social media. There are a few that do, like Mr. Eastman. He's very energetic on social media. Your likes of Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee as well. Those guys kind of on the cusp of social media, so I think they've kind of embraced it, but the older generation haven't really come into that. So, I mean...
maybe they don't need it. Maybe they have like art dealers and stuff
that's exactly right.
They don't art and stuff, but
they don't really need it, and they don't if they go to a convention, they've got a line around the block. Last year at Supernova Sydney, Simon Beasley, he I didn't even know he was going to be there. And I follow him on social media, and I didn't even know he was going to be in Sydney.
Yeah.
And he had people lining up around the artist alley. So, I mean, like, what does that tell you? They don't really need that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, exactly. But we're not them, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's all important things that you need to do, to become an artist or become a comic book writer or get into the industry. They're all important factors, and you've taken that on very much so. Like recently, your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle chibis that you've been drawing, you've just been belting those out, man, and that's awesome.
That's all part of the algorithm, man. Like when I studied all this algorithm shit, I found out that you really have to niche down what your content's about. So if we're comic book artists, that's like the more specific you can be, the better. So if you're an artist, that's good. Can you get more specific? Comic books. Can you get more specific? Like Ninja Turtles. Can you get more specific? Like Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I'm doing it. And to be honest, at first I didn't even really enjoy drawing them. Now I'm actually liking it. You know, it's becoming challenging and stuff, so I'm actually enjoying it. But these are just drawings that I'm putting out because it takes me about an hour and a half to do one of those chibis. So it's like when I wake up, it's my warm-up piece sort of thing, you know.
Yep.
And then yeah, like it's my post for the day. So and like the fruits I've gotten from sticking to this, like it's unbelievable, man. Like my Instagram was so slow before this, and it took like a while, but like after about the third or fourth week, maybe the first month of these chibis, like the reach my posts get and stuff like that is just exploding, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And that's what you want. You want that interaction. Like, dude, those chibis would make mad stickers.
Yeah, I'm gonna get them all done as stickers, and I'm gonna.
That's a big effort to get all them made as stickers, dude.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, how hard could it be to get like a roll of sticky paper and just have them all stacked on one sheet of sticky paper, and then like kids can just cut them out, you know?
Yeah, that
I
would.
don't gotta get them die cut or anything, just like all on one sheet, you know?
Yeah, that would be cool, actually. Yeah, that's a smart way of doing it, man. I like that.
I'm gonna do a big poster of them as well. Like that's why they're all in different positions, because I've already got like laid out. I want to make a big print with all of them on there.
Oh, that's sick. I gotta see that.
Yeah, I want to get like maybe 40 of them done.
Yeah.
When I've hit 40, I'll just put them all on a massive print. And then, yeah. Because I don't want to do these chibis forever. You know? Eventually I'll stop. So I set myself a goal of 40. And then after 40, I'll focus on something else for the next 3 or 4 months, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, we come out the other side of this, man. Convention time, you're going to have new art to... For anyone that's, like, just trying to be an artist or was building up to be an artist, this is the perfect time. But the world has basically stopped. I know people are saying, you know, don't stress yourself out with doing it, which is cool. Yeah. I get that. I understand that. But this time, for me personally, the world stopped. Yeah. So this is time for me to back scripts up. This is the time for me to strategize my business, to get new material out, to book in new artists to work with, to collaborate with. I'm not stopping. I don't want to stop.
It's so important to get content out now. Like,
exactly.
Even if you know we're not those superstars like Jim Lee, like, you know, comic shops aren't running, and every little bit of content helps keep comics relevant, you know.
Yeah.
Because when this is over, you never know, man. People might not never go back to buy comics. It's just the way it is. They might like, not care.
Look, I won't say never. I'll never say never. But with what happened with Diamond pulling the pin on any new comics for the past month, I mean, the industry has been limping. And you and I both know this because we have talkings with a lot of the comic book stores around our areas in the country, and they're all hurting.
Yeah,
and it's good to see the support there.
Yeah,
but where we come out of this on the other side, it's going to be very different. Yeah. And to me personally, I've seen opportunity here to get my stuff out to a bigger audience, to get it out into other stores, to kind of snowball, I guess, that whole experience. And I think that is just as important because, you know, we're isolated from the rest of the world. There has been no new comics.
And comic stores will probably open up before the distributor gets into the business.
Exactly.
You know, so what are they going to sell? You know, like they can sell your stuff.
Mm.
That's why it's so good. It's so important to get stuff out there.
Which is why, like, honestly, man, I'm really interested to see how the variant cover goes this weekend at D's, because he hasn't had a lot of new comics come through the door in the past month, but this is really the first comic he's had come through the door. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes, because I'm really surprised no one else has really done anything in that sense, because it really baffled me to push something to comic book stores to get them out.
So is he open for New Comic Book Day?
What was that, sorry?
Is D's going to be open on Saturday?
Yeah, so he's going to be open on Saturday. So I'll do a little stint for him now, but if you go to D's Comics on Saturday, you can go and grab the variant cover for In Purgatory issue 3, which is Angie Spice's cover. So she was the guest artist on issue 3, and she was happy enough to do a cover for D's and Brendan, which is really cool. We've got those there. So you go down there and you can pre-order it still, but it'll be Saturday. That's the official launch of it. I think Brendan's got a couple of ideas of packs and stuff to give away to people, so which is really cool. Fingers crossed they make it there in time, because I only sent the comics out today. When this has been recorded, I was like, oh shit, I haven't sent the comics.
Then the express post.
I express post the shit out of it, so hopefully.
Apparently, I got an email from Australia Post, and they said that express post is no longer guaranteed to come on time.
Oh, well, I asked today because I was like, oh, they're gonna make it, and they said, yeah, no, it's back in full effect now, so you should be right. Okay, so right. I was like, yeah, it was like apparently it happened like yesterday or something. So
that's good.
Fingers crossed, guys, that it makes it there in time. But yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. I think it's about, you know, supporting our stores. Yeah. But, you know, we've talked about this recently in the group that, you know, helping them out, buying stock, buying comics, buying graphic novels, buying merchandise, is the best way to help them.
That's the most important, man. Yeah, that is the best way to help them, I reckon.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw, but like, John Samariva started an initiative called Aussies for Comics.
Yes, I did see that. I think Dean Rankin put it up last night on his personal page. And sorry, you go.
Oh yeah, I was going to say like stuff like that's really good, you know. I got an option for these pieces, and they asked me to do a piece as well, so I'm going to do one.
Oh, cool.
I still think more important than that is to just buy comics from the stores. Like I've been waiting for every payday just to hit up these and get them to send me a few comics every 2 weeks, because that's what's going to keep them open more than anyone else, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting because like I've watched the Jim Lee thing happen, and it's all well and good for that, but in America there's a lot more comic book stores and that money to go around. That's just not going to be really sustainable. I mean, for me, it's been great in the sense that I've been able to catch up on a lot of graphic novels that I've fallen behind on, and I've got a pull list with these, so that was getting huge. So I've been able to pretty much dwindle that down to nothing and catch up on some really great comic book stories. Excuse me. So there's been some great opportunities for me personally to be able to get some work out there and also catch up on all the great comic books that have been written elsewhere. What about you, man? What are you into when it comes to the comic book world? What are you into reading?
Well, when I started reading when I was a kid, it was all 90s X-Men, 90s Spider-Man, and when I stopped reading it around I think it was about 2003, 2004, I stopped reading. And the last thing I was reading was John Romita Jr.'s run on Spider-Man.
Yep.
I stopped around that time. And then when I started drawing again, I started checking out my local comic shop again.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you're sort of lost there. I don't know. Like, I just went back to what I was reading before. You know, Spider-Man, X-Men, the Marvel stuff, Batman stuff. When I started getting back into it was around the New 52.
Okay.
And I was lucky that like the Batman stuff was good. You know, recently I've been reading like a bit more indie stuff. Like I just read God Country,
Oh, okay.
and I'm also reading Shortless Story Fighter,
Yep.
which is really good. But yeah, like I haven't sat down and read comics properly really since the New 52 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was buying comics monthly from my comic store, and I wasn't even reading them because I just thought they were so shit, man. Like that's the honest truth. You know, lately I've been catching up on like I've been reading Superior Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
About that. But yeah, I'm getting Brendan to recommend me shit, and
Yeah, he's definitely good at that. It's funny because like I have stopped with the monthly comic book.
Yeah.
I don't feel I was getting my bang for buck there. And if anyone listens to the podcast, they'll hear me rant about it constantly. That I fell out with comic books, which is why I started this podcast and why I started reading indie comics and getting independent creators to come on, because I'd become tired with the mainstream comics as such.
Shit, man. They got really good. Yeah.
But I've come back in a certain degree now because partially of Brendan, but it's really the fact of the matter that there's this short run series now that I can come and pick up, and there's maybe 6 to 12 issues. And I think that's really cool, and you can get some really cool stories, like stuff like I've been reading lately, Batman's Grave. It's a 12-part series, fantastic. Batman versus Ra's al Ghul, Punisher, Soviet, which is it's another short run of comic books. All these short runs I'm really invested in now because they're short, sweet, straight to the point. You're not going in and out of different comic books. So dude, I can 100% agree with you there. Like it becomes very daunting, especially when they did both the big ones have done reboots in the last 5 to 10 years. Two reboots.
They reboot single series, like they'll cancel the series and then the next month is another issue runner.
Exactly, yeah. So
go ahead.
Yeah, it's very painful when I was doing it that way. So I'm quite happy just to do my little short run series. Image Comics, Dark Horse, IDW, Boom. I mean, they've got some great series going on in their worlds, which is really cool to be part of and read those stories. So yeah, man, that's really interesting, the way you've kind of come up in comic books and read them, and then you've kind of come back and seen you might not have enjoyed it. So it's very interesting to hear another person like that, because there's very few that still, a lot of people I know still read passionately like that.
When I first got into comics when I was a kid in primary school, like I don't even think I actually read them. I just looked at the art. I was just sitting there. I was amazed by the art, Yeah. And it was only when I got a bit older, when I hit high school, I actually started reading them. And I was lucky that the comics coming out at the time were really good.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got like a bit too caught up in high school playing soccer and trying to be cool, and I just dropped them.
Yeah.
But I never really stopped drawing. And I was always going nuts. Every movie that came out, I was going crazy over it.
Yeah.
So I still craved the comic book stuff, but I don't know. I just went through teenager time when I just thought I wanted to do something else. I want to look at other shit.
Yeah.
I think everyone goes through that.
Yeah, and I think it's part of the culture of comics, really. You tune in, you tune out, you come back in, you come back out. It's kind of the nature of it.
It's funny, man. It felt like comics were so cool when I was a little kid, and then it felt like they weren't cool when I was a teenager. And then when I grew up, I'm like, they're cool again.
Yeah.
But that's just in your own head, because it was almost like I didn't want people to know I was reading comics in high school. That's why I stopped reading.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some people have certain reasons they drop in and out of it. I had my reasons for dropping in and out of it. I've come back to it. I came back to it. I never really stopped, but I slowed down from reading comics. And I mean, I think that the culture at the moment is huge.
Yeah.
It can be daunting because, you know, as a kid, you bled for these. You bled for these movies, you bled for these stories, and now it's a part of everyday life. But it's still cool to see it all come to the grand scale it's at now. And that's enjoyable. That's enjoyable to watch other people get enjoyment out of what we used to get enjoyment out of, and we still do.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it's I think it's probably time to wrap this up. It's been amazing having you on the show, man. And talking comics and talking about your experience. You've given us a pool worth of knowledge of how to get involved in it and how to talk to the big leagues and try and get your foot in the door. You know, the likes of your portfolio, Phantom, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and, you know, on and upwards really now as it goes. So that's really cool, man. And, you know, for anyone out there who's interested, go and follow Camillo on his social media pages. So be Instagram and do you have any others, Cam?
I got Instagram and Facebook. So on Instagram, I'm Instacam_ILLO. And on Facebook, I've got a page called Camillo Art.
There you go, guys. Go and check it out. Go and follow it. Go and pick up some of his art because he is a kick-ass artist and you got to get on now before he becomes into the big leagues. Once again, thank you for coming on, Camillo. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Guys, thank you for listening to this special edition episode of the Halftone Effect. I nearly forgot the name of the podcast for a second there. Also, if you're interested, we are giving away a free comic today for Free Comic Book Day. It is a digital edition one with 3 new stories from Talking Bread, In Purgatory, and Super Radio Battle Armor. Once again, thank you for joining in, and we'll see you next time.